Hello and welcome. Sherry and I are here. We're very happy to have you here. I feel like I say this a lot with our sessions, especially when you're here, Sherry, because we had so much interest in this session,
So
and
good.
and I know why, because this is a topic. Well, for one thing, because you're here.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, people love. I get such great feedback when you join these sessions.
Aw, that's nice.
And this is just one of those topics that's like every organization needs support with. So
Yes.
we get a lot of interest in onboarding. Um, and I am going to transcribe. I'm just going to start the transcription here. Uh,
Hmm.
and then it's so funny if anyone else uses Zoom. You you start the transcription and then unless you remember to save it at the end, you don't get it. So I have
Oh,
to remember to save it. So anyone on here that has a good memory, feel free to put it in the chat at the end. Amy, remember to hit save the transcript because I can't tell you how many times I haven't done that. But I'm going to share my screen. You're welcome to introduce yourself in the chat and say
Mhm.
hi. Tell us where you're here from. Tell us what the weather's like. We're finally getting a little peaks of sunshine here.
Sunny.
Um, well, Sherry, you know that I have a new-ish dog, new to me dog, a
Yes.
rescue dog, and he just loves walking. But he loves walking whether it's rain, shine, rain in Vancouver. Ed,
Oh,
sorry for you.
yeah. Mm.
Toronto, Guelph.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Edmonton. Ooh, is it still cold in Edmonton, Matt? It's
Yeah,
yes.
but listen, I heard it's warmer in Edmonton than it has been here several times. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay. Huh.
yeah.
Well, there you go. I hope it gets like it's been getting a little warmer here, but it's the other day it was like snowing one
I
minute,
know.
really
Can't take it.
sun shining the other minute. Okay, well, I want to be mindful of everyone's time, and I've got my timer here to make sure we stay on track. It is 1 o'clock, and we're going to start right at one. Um, and of course, we're going to be talking about onboarding today, and you're going to see in a minute that we're going to have a pretty fun way to present it. I hope you find it fun. If you don't like
Hmm.
it, please tell us so I never do it again. But the last time we did this type of presentation, it went over quite well. So what you'll want to do is make sure you have access to your comments section. So it's nice to get people in the chat early. Oh, Kitchener. I see Bridget is here from Kitchener, Melissa, Toronto. Victoria, Kansas City. Fun. Okay.
Mm.
Oakville, Ontario. Love Oakville. Sherry,
That's
you
where
know that part of the world
I
well.
am.
Well.
Yep.
Okay, getting back to what we're doing here. We have too much fun during these sessions sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
back to business. But
Hmm.
we're going to talk about ideas that you can implement immediately. I know it's always really important to Sherry and I when we run these sessions that you feel like, okay, I'm leaving the session now and I actually have an idea for what to do next.
Hmm.
And it's not just like, oh, that was a great session. It was fun. It was a great way to spend an hour, but it's like what now. So we always really like to feel like we're sharing information about, okay, what can I do now right away, low to no cost. Not everything's no cost, but some of it is. But
Hmm.
first of all, I want to say finally we've been working on this technology for a year. And this is really the answer to let's refresh our onboarding program. We have introduced Onboarding Buddy, which means we're going to talk today actually about refreshing resources, but this actually helps you to kind of skip that step a little bit. So that's really good. It's secure, Microsoft backed. There's no setup fees. It's really easy to integrate with other systems you're already using. And it can really be launch in days. So it's like one of those quick fixes. And I hope that it means that you won't be asked about your onboarding program all the time and will actually be a really great way to get your new hires up to speed. So after the session, I'll send you a little more information about how to book time if you want to talk about it, and I can show it all to you and how it works. But I can tell you the beauty is in the simplicity, which was intentional. So very happy about that. Of course, we still offer outplacement and career transition, which is a program we're very, very proud of. All of our programs, especially now, I don't know if any of you here today are on the job market. It's a tough one. Like it is a tough job market right now. And so we've opened up all of our programs, even our base program for everyone to have year access, and all of those programs have live coaching. So if you're expecting layoffs or terminations in your organization and you want to talk to me, I will make sure that you can do that. You can email me and you can respond to the email I send after the session as well and book some time. The last little piece of news is Coffee and Law. So we have a podcast now called Coffee and Law, which is the workplace law podcast. And I speak with different experts in the field. We just released our workplace investigations podcast. So that one is out now on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. But this might be a good one to follow to get information because, it's complex, and employment law is always changing. I know, Sherry, you have a very good handle, and we're going to talk about Sherry now, but I just want to start by saying I've actually taken a huge risk with Sherry, and years ago introduced her to my cousin, who you started working with as a consultant. And oh my goodness, the rave reviews I've begun. You're closer to my cousin now than I am because you've been working together. But I've had the pleasure of referring you several times, and you just have this most amazing business. So Sherry, I'm going to pass it on to you to just talk for a minute about Loft, and then we'll get going.
Oh, well, thank you, Amy. And I always appreciate the referrals and the kind words. So at Loft, we actually work in a couple of different ways. We do fractional HR support for smaller businesses that don't have in-house HR. And we also help larger businesses with HR departments with some of those big projects that either you don't have the capacity to do, or you need some confidentiality or extra expertise to work on. So things like culture and engagement, org structure, succession planning. Those are some of the key kind of projects that we work on.
Yeah. And you make it so I've worked, Sherry and I have actually worked together a few times, and you just make it so easy to understand really complex topics. And when you run workshops, you're just so fun. Like you bring them alive. You make them so much fun. So
Sherry, you're being so
I know,
nice.
are you blushing? Well, I only have people here that I think are amazing, and you're one of those people. So I'm really happy to have you here, and you do such a great job.
The feeling is mutual.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I always get this question. It might be sitting there in the chat, which I haven't had time to check. Full disclosure, I've run a million sessions on Zoom. I never seem to be getting better at being able to follow the chat and run the presentation at the same time. So I will always do my best. But the good news is this session is being recorded. The other piece of good news is if you have a question and we weren't able to answer it, we're still here. So you can always, and I know Sherry's going to put up our information in the chat too over the course of this, but you can reach out to us by email. You can reach out to us by LinkedIn. We'll see if we remember at the end to put that information in the chat as well. So if you have questions and they're missed, by all means, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay, hold on. This is how you know this is live. I'm supposed to be putting information in the chat, but I can't get it. I can't get it to work, so it goes to everybody. We should have tested this. I'm so sorry to everybody.
It's okay if you just go to your chat settings. So go to chat, and then it will say that you're only chatting with
host and panelists. But I don't have everyone as an option.
Oh, you should click on that's odd. Okay. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. So if anyone knows,
if anybody knows, put it in the chat, but I'm so sorry. I should have tested this before.
Well, you know what? You don't have to worry. If you try it out while I'm talking, maybe you'll figure it out. You did a really good job of figuring this out in the past, Sherry. So we'll see. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you know how to find me anyway.
Exactly.
So that's fun. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about imprinting. And I know if you've come to my sessions before, you've heard me talk about this before. But I do always think it's an important reminder. I also think it's really important as a way to position why onboarding is so important. And imprinting we experience as something psychologists talk about when they're talking about how we engage with new stimulus. We're very highly receptive when that happens, when we go to a new restaurant, when we meet a new person, and when we start at a new organization. And we've depended on this for our survival over our entire existence as a species. So it's certainly not something we can flick a switch and change when we join an organization. So we're making judgments very, very quickly. And one of the anecdotes someone has shared with me when I've gone over onboarding and what needs to change and what they could do better is, the wait time. Like someone comes to reception and ends up waiting and waiting and waiting. And they're nervous. They've really probably worked hard to get there on time. It's a new place they're commuting to. And then they're just sat in reception for 30 minutes until their manager comes down and collects them. That is a horrible experience to have as a new hire. And that is going to affect their perspective of that organization, not just in that moment, but over the long term. Because what happens once we've imprinted is we build what's called a belief system. And once that belief system is established, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to change. And I find it so interesting that we always say, you know, Sherry, you and I have heard this a million times, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, but we don't really apply that to the work that we do, whether it be with our clients and customers or whether it be with our employees. So it's a really important one to maybe look up and share in your organization, because it's like, I feel like onboarding is something people always talk about fixing and changing and the need to do that. And then nothing ever happens. And it's running it's risky for your business. So.
And I just was thinking, as you were talking about the imprinting goes both ways too. So if you are somebody new that's starting at a new employer, you're creating the imprinting process as well, right? So it's definitely both ways.
For sure, it is both ways. And that's why normally we show up in our best outfits on our first days, right? And it's always so embarrassing when you don't know the dress code beforehand. And you show up. I don't know if anyone here has ever done that before. You show up and you're dressed to the nines, and then everybody else is in a t-shirt and jeans. And you're like, oh my goodness, why didn't anyone tell me? I feel so out of place. Yeah.
That's tip number one, actually. Make sure you tell people what the dress code is.
Right. And we're going to talk about that too when we talk about pre-boarding, but it's such a good point. Make sure we're telling people what the dress policy or the dress code is, because it can go both ways. Somebody maybe in a team where there used to be more casual, or someone like us who maybe are entrepreneurs, we kind of dress however we want. And then if we got a job, we'd have to really maybe be reminded. I don't know. Probably not us, Sherry, but some people would. And I get that. Okay. So this is what we're going to do today. And this is why I'm saying, get your fingers ready to be in the chat. Not you, Sherry, because you can't.
No, okay. I won't.
Well, you can't. You said you technically can't.
I can't.
Just
exactly.
So, okay. So what we want to do is you're going to want to, you're choosing how this presentation goes. So what I'm going to do is, Sherry, do you want to keep track of the numbers, and I'll keep track of the presentation?
You bet.
Okay. I know Matt actually made a good point. What does business casual even mean anymore? I used to have a definition for it. And I remember giving a presentation once, and someone came up and was like, thank you for finally explaining to me what business casual means. And this was a professional. And they're like, I've never really known.
Or now people say smart casual. That's another one I hear, smart casual. I'm like, huh?
Like, what you really want to know is, jeans allowed? Not allowed.
Exactly.
Ripped jeans? I would never recommend wearing flip-flops or having an organization allowed, because that's a health and safety risk. But it's very complicated, and everyone makes up their own interpretation, and that can be great, and that can be wow. So, okay. So what we're going to do is you're going to choose which picture we talk about first. And of course, all the pictures are numbered. So I'm going to count to 3, and you're going to type in the chat, and whatever person types in the number first, that's the one that we're going to talk about. Not sure we're going to have time to talk about all of them today. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but it's going to be a participant-led presentation today. So, and feel free to share in the chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. Feel free
Yep.
to share your LinkedIn in the chat if you want as well. Okay, so I'm going to count to three, and then you're going to choose a number. So 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, you are fast.
Okay, well, then what's the first one?
The first one was 7, I think.
7. Okay, if it's not, we're very sorry to whoever typed in
I got
first.
it. Yeah, it's 7. Matt,
Okay,
you're
well,
fast.
yeah, very fast. So, actually, Sherry, we just had this experience, right? We just had this experience of something going wrong, and we didn't normal. I didn't say,
Yes.
"Oh, Sherry, that just
Oh,
always
you're so
happens to
dumb.
you. You just
Yeah.
always screw things up."
Yeah. You
Yeah,
could have.
yeah. But I think it's important to remember that we're human. This is life. Things will go wrong. And they
Mm-hmm.
go wrong during onboarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Equipment doesn't show up on time. People don't show up on time. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the conversation we were just having around someone arriving and not being picked up for 30 minutes, that was
Mm-hmm.
a horrible experience for that individual.
Yep.
But that was never fixed. I think that was part of the problem. The person
Mm-hmm.
who had to go get them never made it seem like, oh, I'm so sorry. This doesn't happen. This is what happened. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the reason why. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was part of the problem. So I think the acceptance that things will go wrong. And it's not just up to HR, right? And I think, Sherry, you're the one who talks about this all the time. HR might lead, build kind of some aspects of the onboarding program, but it's not all their responsibility
Right.
in the same way that culture is not all
Mm-hmm.
up to HR, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that we're training our leaders how they should set up. And this will help mitigate risk. This will help. I was just doing a recording for Coffee and Law this morning, and we were talking about bullying and harassment in the workplace.
Oh.
And the episode we just released today, like I said, was on workplace investigations. And it's all about how to mitigate risk rather than
Mm-hmm.
wait for something to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So coaching, HR coaching, people leaders can really help. And then coaching them on how to fix the problem when things go
Mm-hmm.
wrong. So I would think that one of the ways that we can mitigate risk, and I'm sure you've dealt with this 1,000 times, Sherry, in working with organizations, is like have a process for how people get their equipment, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
PPE or IT equipment,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, it does, things do go wrong. And I
Yeah.
love this piece about, oh, that's just the sort of thing that happens around here. And then I think about your first comment around imprinting. So
Yeah.
even though somebody might just say that sort of flippantly, a little, side conversation or a side comment, it sticks really hard to the person who's brand new and this is their very first impression of the organization.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really big one, not to normalize.
Especially in times when there is so much uncertainty in the
Mm-hmm.
workforce about
Mm-hmm.
is this company going to survive, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's global conflicts that are
Mm-hmm.
influencing that mindset, or whether it's the introduction of AI, like, is this company going to make it? Like, you can't even get me
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
computer. So
Right.
making sure that we're like, don't worry, we're going to get this sorted out for you is, I
Mm-hmm.
think, what you want to be coaching managers to say. Because as HR, you probably know better not to say that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Than to say that. But it's really about coaching the managers and the teams that are bringing in new
Mm-hmm.
people. And then I think it's important to coach them, or if you're dealing with it as HR, to set a timeline and really provide updates for whenever this issue will be fixed, whenever they will have their PPE, whenever they will have their computer or phone or whatever it is they need to do their job. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think if they don't have it, like, don't just leave them to figure it out. That has happened to me in
Oh yeah.
organizations. I don't know if it's happened to anyone else. It's like, okay, we'll just talk to IT. Well,
Yeah,
I have,
exactly. Go email so and
yeah,
so in IT, and you're
yeah,
already so intimidated and nervous, and you're thinking, I gotta go do what?
yeah. And then
Ugh.
you're anxious about it and you don't
Mhm.
want to show them you are. So that is one thing we want to think about. And then
Mhm.
I would also say that just coaching your managers on the process, right? So making
Mm-hmm.
sure they know how to get all these things set up
Mm-hmm.
is a really great way to take care of it. So I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
anyone else has anything else to add in the comments, but the last thing I
Let me
would say
read.
is if the person doesn't have the tools they need to do their job that day, let them go home. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
big mistake
Mm-hmm.
organizations make is not coaching managers to let people leave if
Mm-hmm.
there's really nothing they can do. Because I don't know about you, Cher, but like I've sat there and had nothing to do in a new
Yes.
job. And I'm
Yes.
so embarrassed and I want to look busy and I just don't know how to look busy
Exactly.
sitting at an empty desk.
Yeah,
Mm.
or have a backup plan. So
Mm.
have tasks or self things that make sense to be self-directed on the list and say, "Oh, actually we were going to do this today. We have a slight delay because of X. Why don't you focus on this now and we'll get you set up with that tomorrow." But it's so true. People think, I don't know if they think that if you let them go home they either won't come back or they think that that's how you work. Like, I don't know what
Yeah,
it is, but it's
I
funny.
know. Yeah, it is funny. We don't want to let people go. Maybe we don't want to like admit to defeat.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
true, true.
Okay, so don't put anything yet. I'm going to count to three and then you're going to choose the next topic. Okay, so one, two, three.
Who is it? Ed. I think
Okay,
Ed got, okay, hold on. It goes so fast. I got to go
I know.
back. Ed with eight,
Eight.
number
Okay.
eight.
Okay. Once I get better at putting these presentations together, I'll learn how to hide the ones that we've already done because inevitably someone's going to choose one we've already done because I even
No,
forget sometimes.
well, they could, but I've got tracking. I'm tracking.
Ooh,
I'm
good, good.
manually tracking here.
Excellent,
Oh,
excellent.
yeah.
So this one I really like because especially as an entrepreneur, I'm really into automation tools and
Yes.
Sherry and I've always talked about the benefit of technology and
Hmm.
quite selfishly, I would say that technologies like Onboarding Buddy,
Hmm.
they're designed to enable human connection. Because, for
Hmm.
instance, with a tool like that, if you have the answers you need, you're going to be more comfortable having conversations and contributing when you're like, okay, you've asked a buddy, your little chatbot, and it's going to tell you based on the
Hmm.
company's information. But there's other ways to set up automation. And I know the last few times we've given similar advice people have wanted us to go very deep into this topic. And before
Hmm.
we go today, I'll put the link to the next session that I'm running on fixing onboarding. And I'm going to go very deep on topics like this if it's of interest to you. So
Mm,
please let me know if
good.
this is a topic that's of interest. But when I talk about automation, what I'm talking about specifically, and you and I have both talked about this, Sherry, we've
Hmm.
seen this so much. Often it's the case a new hire will get an email like this on their very first
Yes.
day. Yeah,
Yes.
with everything
Hmm.
benefits information,
Right.
payroll
Hmm.
information, org charts, where
Yep.
to park, who's their team, or whatever it is. Like
Hmm.
there's just so much information
Hmm.
given to people at one time. And
Hmm.
wouldn't it be great if, and this is where I encourage HR leaders to speak to, especially to their marketing team.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. We can learn a lot in HR from marketing, actually, in many
Yeah.
regards. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, marketing often knows about imprinting too, right?
Hmm.
Like, or how to make a good impression, how to kind of,
Hmm.
there's so many other things. And we'll talk about that a little more when we talk about resources. But in email sequence, so entrepreneurs often manage a mailing list, which First 30 does. Many of
Hmm.
all of you are on it now. Um,
Hmm.
but we are used to we can set up campaigns, we can do drip. You probably found yourself on, we're very good at First 30 and Loft where we don't contact people all the time, but you probably experience those mailing lists where it's like constant. And it's
Yeah.
because there's a flow of emails that
Hmm.
have been set up. Your email has been put into that sequence, and every few days you're getting another email. That can be annoying as a prospect or client of a business, but as a new hire, it's actually very much welcomed. So you get one email on your second day about your benefits information that's clearly labeled benefits information, and then it has
Right.
the information specifically about that, it makes it so easy to search. Because if you don't remember the name of that email you were sent on that
Mm-hmm.
first day when you're
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed with everything else, you may be stuck trying to find that. And then you have to get embarrassed and go ask
Mm-hmm.
somebody. And that is not a positive imprinting experience.
Well, the
Um,
other thing, just to add to that,
yeah.
is we don't need all of the information at the same time. And so benefits is one where I would say, hey, hold on a second. When do they actually need it? Oftentimes there's the probationary period that you don't have benefits entitlement through anyways. And so sending it more closer to the time when I'm actually going to need the information versus everything all at once drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and this is why I also think it's like useful to have a marketing lens or work closely with marketing in some of these activities, thinking about it in terms of the user experience, right? The employee experience, as opposed to I'm ticking a box on the information that I need to. Oh, I gave that to them. I sent
Yeah.
that to them. It's more about how are they receiving it versus what do I have to tell them.
Right, right. Because just because it's off your checklist doesn't mean it's
Right.
on their radar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked in the past about how onboarding should be a babbling brook of information,
Yes.
not an avalanche, right? Or
Yes.
like you said,
Yes.
drinking from a fire hose. And it just makes everyone feel so much better. The other thing I was going to say about benefits, and this is part of automation, is like we'll talk about it a bit in resources too, but give you their benefits activate, say, after 3 months after the
Mm-hmm.
probation. When are they actually filing their first benefits claim?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And some people are more
Mm-hmm.
resourceful than others. It can really
Yep.
reduce the load on HR
Mm-hmm.
if people know how to do these things and can
Mm-hmm.
do them themselves. Because even think about how often do you fill out a benefits claim?
Yeah.
Like you probably have to be reminded every time you do
Mm-hmm.
it. So it
You know
would
what
be
other
good.
things, other
Mhm.
things like that come to my mind? One is expenses.
Yes.
So
Oh.
we learn the process for expenses on our first or second day, or if we do it at all. Sometimes we don't learn it at all. But then when we actually we need to go and file our expense report or however we do it, we really have no idea.
Yeah.
Scheduling time off for vacation, like there's
Oh.
certain things that you literally do few and far between, and you're not going to do for a while from your first day. In certain roles, in some roles, I
Mm.
might file an expense report like within my first 2 weeks, but in some, I might not for a year.
I know.
So,
Yeah. That it is crazy. And then it's so embarrassing to have to ask
mhm,
your manager and then keep
mhm.
asking because there's so much time in between. And then
Yeah,
half the time they don't even know how to do it.
that's
Like
right.
they might know how to do it and fumble through it each time, but they certainly don't know how to teach you how to do it. So that
Hmm.
can get complicated. And like I said, we already talked about checking with your marketing team.
Hmm.
So if you're thinking to yourself, seeing this, well, Amy, we don't have an email sequencing
Hmm.
technology. You may very well within your marketing team, depending on the size of your business. So you might want to check with them as well to see if they have something that you can use internally.
Hmm.
But I have good, like I really like Kit is a very simple tool to use, and I think you can use it internally. You need to talk to your IT team about making sure that the emails will actually get through,
Hmm.
depending on the size of your organization. But there are some really good tools used for marketing out there that could probably be used internally as well. Okay, get your hands ready. I'm going to count to three. One, two, three.
Okay. I think, just a sec, I don't want to say. I think I saw, yeah, four. I saw
Okay.
four.
Okay. This is often people's favorite one, by the
Oh
way.
my gosh, because it's the most adorable little
I
teddy.
know it's a very cute teddy, but I'm thinking
Hmm.
of like self-soothing when you start a new job because I find it personally exhausting because you're always um, like I always say I feel like a smiling bobblehead when I start my
Hmm.
first week a few days anyway at a new job. It is
Hmm.
so tiring
Yeah,
because everything is new. Like you're going to a new
yeah,
location, you commuting, like if
yeah.
you're not remote, even if you are remote, you're setting up all your technology.
Hmm.
And that's the other thing that I always say is like let people have time to set up their technology. as
Hmm.
well on their first day, not the weekend before, but actually on
Yes.
the,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
because then you can actually connect them and have an IT person on call as well.
Hmm.
But what I say when you have a new hire is like let them leave early and start late on their first day.
Right.
Yeah. And it's easy to make this case internally because managers
Hmm.
love it because they can have their coffee and check their emails, get everything out of the way, and then they can be fresh. And they're not going to be
Hmm.
30 minutes late to pick their new hire
Yeah,
up or get on
exactly.
the call. Yeah.
Because they have a job, right? Their
Yeah.
job doesn't stop to onboard their new hire. And so this builds ease into the manager's day and it builds sort of, I guess, respect and thoughtfulness into the person who's joining. The other thing when I saw the first slide that came to my mind is a new job is hard and exhausting. And it made me think about the difference between extroverts and introverts and all the different learning styles and all the different
Hmm.
ways that people sort of show up and how sometimes that is very draining. Even the highest extroverts, it's a very draining process. So
Yeah.
understanding that and personalizing that experience, this is a really key point because it allows you to understand how people actually learn and interact on a day-to-day basis.
And it makes them feel like you get them. Like,
Yeah,
oh, you get
exactly.
this. Yeah,
Very
yeah, yeah.
respectful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would say, like, we're going to talk maybe we'll be talking a little bit more about pre-boarding, but this is something
Yeah.
that's nice to let them know in
Yeah.
advance, because then it will make them relax a little. Like, oh, I don't have to
Yeah.
like rush in my first day and fight, morning traffic and try to
Mhm.
figure everything out. The other thing is, oh, I was going to say something very prescient here now, and I can't remember what it
Well,
was.
I'll say there's a couple things in the chat that I think are
Yeah.
worth calling out, and
Yeah.
then you might remember it.
Yeah.
Somebody said buy them lunch their first day. LOL, but I don't
Oh.
think it is a LOL. I actually think it's true. There's something about
Hmm?
creating an inviting space. And
Yeah.
then Jenny said she just started a new job 2 weeks ago and is exhausted now because has been out of work for a year.
Oh.
And it's
Oh.
true. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's a different type of it's it's a different type of showing up, I guess.
For sure it is. And so I've remembered my point. So thank you, Sherry, for filling the blanks in for me. Sherry's like, that's just the sort of thing that happens around here. Amy forgets everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's rather than starting on a Monday, have new hires start on a Tuesday, because
Yes.
then you've got like a big day out of the way for people too, and
Yeah.
probably be a lot easier on everyone.
Payroll won't like you, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, payroll won't be.
Payroll.
That's true. They need more complexity in their
Yeah,
lives,
that's it.
Sherry.
That's it. Of course. I'm sure
Sorry,
they'd all
anyone from
agree.
payroll. You've
Yeah.
got a really important job and a very difficult
Of
one. So
course.
I
Oh
don't
yeah.
mean to make
No
light of
kidding.
it, but
Mm.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna count to three in a second. So one, two, three.
Number two.
Number two. Oh, I love this one.
I do too. This is actually one of my favorites.
Yeah, tell us if you think this would be a good topic for an entire webinar, because Sherry and I were talking just before we started
Mm.
that this might be a good topic. So the point of this is, and Sherry is really the expert on this. So I would say I've learned what I know from her, but learning really is a process, and there's steps to that process that can be more difficult. Some of them are very obvious. We can see what they're going through. Some really are not as obvious.
Mhm.
And Sherry, you were the one who introduced me to this tool of the learning curve years ago. And we've since
Yeah.
spent, so maybe you just want to quickly
Sure, I'll go through
explain.
it. I think
Yeah.
this is such an important reminder for the person who's new to a job and for the person who is training the new person and the managers in the new
Yeah.
job because we all go through this. And actually the learning curve is not just a new job phenomenon. Anytime that we learn a new skill or we're introduced to new technology, people are going through this learning curve. So for me, the best analogy is driving a car, learning how to drive a
Mm,
car. And
hmm.
so I'll take my 16-year-old son who is currently learning to drive a car. And before he learned and got behind the wheel of the car, He was the biggest backseat driver imaginable. Mom, just pass that person. Mom, why are you going so slow, Mom? Mom, didn't you miss that stop sign? Mom, it's like I
Yeah.
didn't miss a stop sign, by the way. I'm a very, very careful driver.
Yeah.
So he was living in this unconscious incompetence box where he didn't know what he didn't know. So
Mm,
your confidence is super high. This is your very first few days. I just got this job. I'm going to rock it. I know this. You're living in this world of unconscious incompetence. Then you move up to this box of conscious incompetence. And
hmm
conscious incompetence is when I start to know what I don't know. And our
hmm
confidence actually starts to go down because we don't feel like an expert anymore. We don't feel like we're doing well. We are asking so many questions. We're worried about being judged. Um, and so the important part for a manager is to get them out of that box as soon as possible and or to normalize that box and make it okay to be in that box.
And yeah, I wanted to say that when people start a job and they're unconsciously incompetent and they're
Hmm.
saying these things like, "Oh, well, in
Yeah.
my last job we did things
Right.
like this." That's obvious and it's kind of annoying as a
Yeah.
manager.
Yeah.
So you as HR, that's a really good moment for you to act as a coach to that manager
Right.
and even make them aware of this learning curve. The second phase, the conscious incompetence, that it happens more quietly. And that
Yes.
is actually where we might lose really great talent, especially
Hmm.
really strong performers are often much
Hmm.
harder on themselves. And they might
Hmm.
just say, I actually can't do this.
Right.
And they might quietly, I'm not gonna, no, I don't mean the quiet quitting as
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the clickbait. I mean, they might quietly inside say, "Oh, I should have taken that other job that I was applying to,"
Hmm.
and that's where I'm going to be bring up like a tool like our onboarding buddy. That's what it's meant to help with as
Hmm.
well. That's a great
Exactly.
moment for them to have a technology that allows them to quickly ask all the dumb questions that they don't want to ask their manager, and
Hmm.
they've asked the same questions 10 times
Right.
because and that's a good time for them to engage with those kinds
Hmm.
of systems that will allow them to do it without judgment
Hmm.
at any time. So, and that's one good way of making sure you retain your top talent who are the hardest on themselves and might really
Right.
suffer through this
That's exactly
process.
it. Because the A people are
Yeah.
actually going to be harder on themselves. They're going to sit there because they're used to being such a high performer. In the
Yeah.
analogy of the driving, like this is where, okay, so my son gets his learner's permit, and all of a sudden he's sitting behind the wheel for the first time and he's realizing, oh, there's two pedals, there's all these knots. It's not just a steering wheel, well,
Yeah.
what does this do? What does this dashboard mean? And so he realizes, hold on a second, this might be harder than I thought it was. And I'm like, ha ha ha, I told you. But no, I'm just so calm and so
Yes.
helpful as a mother
Well,
to help him.
you're in further down the learning curve because this is a second child you've taught to drive.
Yeah, well, actually, Doug taught them both, but that's okay.
Okay.
Nobody wants me teaching anybody to drive, let me tell you. But okay, so then we move over into the next bucket, which is the conscious competence. And from a conscious competence perspective, this is where we start to get our confidence back a little bit. We know what we're doing, but we're going to do it slowly and with intention. And so this is where you're driving, you're thinking about, oh, there's a stop sign coming. I have to start slowing down. I want to look both ways. I need to turn my signal on. Like you're actually having to sort of process your way through acting.
Mhm,
So your confidence is in the middle,
mhm.
Some things you might be doing faster than others, but it's taking you a long time. And again, going back to those high performers, they might have an expectation on speed. And so, like the speed of their delivery. And so, again, this is where the manager needs to really coach the employee through. Actually, my expectation is not that you're going to get it done in 2 days. This might take you 5 days because this is your third time doing it, or whatever the case might be.
hmm
Then we
And
moved. Oh,
that's
yeah.
one where that can be annoying for managers. You've mentioned this before, Sherry, and I just happened to remember it because it was such a good point. Is that that's where managers might actually get annoyed with their new hire too, because they
Yes.
might have been doing the job that new hire is doing. It's like, why can't you
Right.
do this more quickly? I
Yeah.
was able to do this. They forget that they
Hmm.
went through that learning process
Hmm.
as well.
This is something that when we've done for clients, when we've done onboarding guides, this is actually a tool that gets put into it. And on a
Hmm
manager side, it's actually providing coaching questions to help them understand how to coach the team member through these various phases. So, if anybody is interested in a deeper dive, I think that's something that we could definitely get into is how to specifically coach somebody through this process.
Yeah.
And then the final piece is the unconscious competence. So this is, now we're not really talking about my son anymore. We're talking about somebody who has had their license. We're talking about my daughter who's older and she doesn't think about it anymore. Sometimes you get somewhere and you think, "Oh my goodness, I don't even know how I got there," because you're so unconsciously competent at the driving. You think, I can't remember. So this is sort of the goal to get here. But that, depending on the job, depending on the specific task, and you could get there faster with some tasks and slower with others. It is a real journey, and we have to be tolerant and understanding of the journey that people are taking, regardless of how experienced they are. Like, I could potentially walk into any organization and do HR, so to speak, but the systems might be different, the processes might be different, the people's expectations are different. That's all stuff you go through the learning curve on.
Yeah, I just think this is a fantastic tool, and it's one I think that HR should definitely have when in their toolkit when they're hiring new people because it affects both the manager and the new hire, and it's just such a great opportunity for HR to do what you do best, which is
Mhm.
coach people.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
All right. Oops, sorry, I'm
Whoa.
flipping around. All right, I'm gonna count to three. So 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Oh, we've got a repeat. Okay, we're gonna
Uh-oh.
go one because we've
One.
already done
Okay.
eight. Yep.
I love this one, of course. Well, Sherry and I have presented several times on this topic, and I'm writing a book very slowly, but writing a book called Creating a Praise Culture. And I just think that this is such a great way to help new hires succeed in your organization. I also think it sets the tone for the entire organization is to let people know what they're doing right.
Mhm.
Of course, that doesn't mean you don't give them constructive criticism along the way, but we just talked about the learning curve. And that's why I love doing this presentation this way, because you never know what's going to come up first or
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
This is such a great follow up from that. So, whoever chose one, good job. But I just think that it's a great way to make people and I told the story before, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail in case you've heard it. But I worked in a restaurant years ago, and my manager said they were going to follow me around and tell me everything I was doing right. And I was like
Mhm.
skipping into work because I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great dopamine hit for me. I'm going to get complimented for the next 3 hours. Of course, he worked in some constructive criticism, but I
Mhm.
never ever forgot that. And I was like, why don't we spend more time? Because we're going to be watching new hires, pointing
Mhm.
out, hey, you did a great job with that.
Mhm.
Hey, you did a great job with that. Next time, consider as well. So I think you want to just Sherry, I'm sure you have so much to say on this, but explain the positive feedback approach to managers. Like again, HR as coach here, helping them understand the difference that it can make to their new hires. And Sherry referred to an onboarding guide as well. You can put
Mhm.
that in an onboarding guide, and then encourage managers to meet with when they meet with their new employees, which we hope
Mhm.
that they're doing fairly regularly, make this part of the process. Like tell them
Right.
to take some notes on the things they've been doing right and
Yes.
verbalize that. And then I think over time, if you do create a praise culture in your organization, it's fun to have an internal marketing campaign where you're like, what has your team done right today or at an all hands? But I think
Mhm.
I'm getting
Yeah.
too far down the road. We'll stick just to onboarding. I can't
Onboarding.
help it. I get ahead of myself, but
It's funny because I think, at least this is my experience. I don't know if it's everybody else's, but in my experience, people lean into the not what I didn't do well versus what I did do well. And
Hmm.
even if we're receiving feedback of what we did well, if it isn't more than what we didn't do well, we're forgetting that we're receiving that feedback. And so,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where I've even heard like a little brag book for themselves. Remind yourself what you did
Yes.
really well. Or I'm thinking about it in terms of building it into the culture so that it's not just the manager's responsibility to create that positive praise culture, but what about the coworkers? Hey, did you tell so and so something they did well or something that you noticed? Because quite frankly, your coworker might notice things very differently than your manager because they may do the same job and your manager doesn't know the job the same way, or they may interact with that job differently. So all of those are really good tips to make the person feel really well loved and welcomed.
And I loved your point because in my first book, A Spark in the Dark, I wrote about creating a happy file for yourself.
Yes.
So you think of it in the context of your own work too, because right now is a good time to start a happy file because you're preparing to, this is your way of preparing
Mm-hmm.
today for the review that you're going to have at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all that information because sometimes your manager actually needs help
Mm-hmm.
remembering the things that you did well. So if your manager gives you praise in an email, put that in your happy file. It's good
Mm-hmm.
for a rainy day when you're having a bad one. We all experience it. Go back to that happy file, take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Or any of your business partners give you praise because your manager might
Mm-hmm.
not see all of that and they probably would appreciate seeing
Mm-hmm.
that too.
Mm-hmm.
So putting all of that in there can do wonders, just not just for your new hires, but for you as an
Yeah,
employee as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call out, Eugene had put in the chat that they usually say well-intended feedback versus constructive. I really like that. I think that's a
Yeah.
great way to frame it.
Yeah.
And we, quite frankly, it's a great way to frame, level set frame that people do have the best intentions. It is well intended.
Yeah. Well, hi,
Um,
Eugene. I'm so glad you're here. He's great. So,
Oh, there you
yeah.
go. And then
Uh,
Jenny just wrote something too,
yeah.
about using Slack, High Five channel where people can call out colleagues for great work.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to promote recognition.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure it is. I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to count to three.
Okay.
So, and we'll go through these maybe just a little bit faster now so that we can get to the end. It's always nice to have a little touch of everything anyway. So one, two, three.
Okay, we've got six. Number
Okay.
six.
Okay, and you know what I'm going to do while I am talking about this? I'm just going to put the in the chat. I'm just going to put the link to our next session actually, so that you can
Oh,
join that
perfect.
if you want to.
Thanks
So
for
let me
having
just.
my back on that one, Amy.
Oh, I know. You're welcome. Oh, my I'm going to add that to
I
my
can
happy
start talking
file.
about this one if you want.
Yeah,
This one is really around. This is a little bit of the drinking from the fire hose, actually, and really understanding that our memories are fragile. So, and especially when we're in a new environment and receiving new information. So, be really aware that while some of the you might actually gloss over things that might be really meaningful and important to somebody, and or you might skip it, or you might think it's super obvious when it's not actually that obvious to somebody. Like something I always think about is acronyms.
hmm,
Acronyms to me are so tough because there's industry acronyms, there's company specific acronyms, and these are things like it really does feel like a foreign language when you start a new workplace. And we are having so much information going through our heads that we think, oh, we just speak in terms of acronyms. And somebody, again, you might be embarrassed to say, hold on a second. What does that mean? You because you think you should know it, right? It's
yeah. Well, and
like,
then you go into every organization, they're like, we love acronyms around here. And you're like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, yes,
no, I
I'm not
know.
loving them right now. And
Yeah.
I've used a slide in the past. It is, it's a known quote is to speak another language is to possess another soul. And you talk
Mhm.
a lot, Cherry, about going from me to we when you come
Yes,
into an
yes,
organization. Yeah.
yes.
And stop saying you do this, say we do this. And learning
Mhm.
that language of that
Mhm.
organization is a huge first step to doing that. And
Mhm.
I'm going to give a little shout out to Onboarding Buddy again, but that is again, this
Mhm.
is the type of thing
Yes,
that this
exactly.
technology was created for. So you can
Right.
put all your acronyms in there in 2 seconds, and then
Mhm.
everybody has access to them, and they
Mhm.
never have to feel like that
Mhm.
again. They can feel get to we a lot faster
Yeah.
with things like that, with tools like that, without having to lean over and get them, especially if you're working remotely. You can't always just
Mhm.
ask somebody without
Mhm.
being really obvious about it. Oh, what is that acronym again? Right.
Right. Yeah.
And when
And
you
the
put
we,
acronym, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say the we thing is when you're listening to new hires, when they stop saying you or I and they start saying we, it means that they feel more of a sense of belonging. So they've sort of
Mhm.
crossed over that I belong here, I am part of this organization now. It's a really good if it's been 6 months and somebody's still saying you, they, um, you might have to do a little bit of a check-in because they're
Yeah.
not feeling a sense of belonging. So,
And this is another great thing where HR can act as coach and
mhm,
have managers really tune into that sort of language as well.
mhm,
So I'll go through these quickly, like training and information in bite-sized chunks. We talked about on automation. We talked about onboarding buddy and technologies like it. Pace introductions with the team over days rather than like all the very same
mhm.
day, because that can be overwhelming. And then reinforce, like I said, I'm giving myself too many too much promo here, but
It's good.
um to reinforce in-person learning through technology that you know will enable human connection. So that's that. All
Mhm.
right, so let's do. I'm going to count to three. So 1, 2, 3. Oh,
Okay, we got 10 fast.
okay, 10. I love. Well, this is
Arnold was
your.
fast.
Well, you're great at. Yeah, that is. People are getting the hang of it,
Yeah.
but I just Sherry, you're really so great with surveying. So I really want you to
Mm,
talk about that. But what I do think that we need to get two-way feedback. We also need to make sure that if we are like if you're here today, I'm imagining that you might be thinking of refreshing or revamping your onboarding program. And it can be dangerous to try to fix something that isn't
right,
broken. So whether
right.
you're doing it in a survey form or you're going around and speaking
Hmm.
to managers about their
Hmm.
experience, and managers are going to be a lot more invested in something they helped create.
Right.
So if you do make changes, engaging them, but you're also going to want to speak to new hires. So people that you've maybe hired in the last 6 to 18 or whatever it is, up to 18 months or even 2 years. People remember
Oh, yeah.
onboarding because it's imprinting. That's why they
Hmm.
remember it so
Hmm.
well. So Sherry, is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of surveys and feedback?
No, I think that there's the piece just the tie back to the positive, right?
Mm-hmm,
Or
mm-hmm.
intentional
Yeah.
versus and also the thinking around really understanding what's working and what's not because otherwise if you just go in with this idea to revamp everything, you may fix what's not broken. And you
Yes,
don't
that's
want to
right.
fix what's not broken.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is there's a lot of ideas around onboarding, and I wonder sometimes if this is why it isn't something that companies do really well. It feels like a beast, right? Like it's like how do you eat an elephant? It's one of those things where it just feels like a lot to take off.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
putting a bit of a roadmap and understanding the feedback and then prioritizing the pain points and
Hmm.
addressing them instead of saying, I'm going to completely rehaul this and in 4 years when I've got it perfect, I'm going to
Yes.
launch it. Like, no,
Yeah,
just listen, understand, and make little tiny changes. And progress is much better than perfection in this regard.
for sure. And just as I know we're getting to the last 10 minutes, so I'm
Yeah.
actually just going to throw all the links that we were going to put in the chat as we went all at once because I know you can reach out to me, but I want to make sure you can also reach out to Sherry and connect with us
Oh,
on
thank
LinkedIn
you.
too. So I'm just going to put this all in the chat while I have a second here. And
And
then
just
I'm going to
pretend
count.
that was me doing it,
Yeah, exactly.
everybody.
Pretend it was Sherry. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to count to three.
Okay, we've
So
only got two numbers left.
yeah. One, two, three.
Okay, three.
Okay. Oh, I love this. So I don't know if any of you used to
Oh,
play
we've
the
actually
game.
got three numbers left. Ed,
Oh
you
my
were
gosh.
right.
Okay. So we're not going to have time for them all. That's just what
Okay, well, we
happens in
got
a
to
present.
go three, then five because Ed had me here. He was
Okay.
tracking. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So remember that with managers, this is a really easy point. So I can do it in 1 minute. And it's
Mm-hmm.
Sherry, I'm going to give you credit because it's something you talked a lot about
Oh.
before. It's like, remember that managers, there might be a significant gap between their last hire and their next hire. So
Mhm.
keep that in mind when you're designing and when you're thinking about when is human intervention really important. We might have all these great tools set up, but then we have a manager that hasn't hired someone in 4 years. You're going to really need to give them some extra support there. So I'm not going to go into
Mhm.
that. So which one do you want to do next?
We're gonna do five.
Okay, which is right behind where my there. Okay, Costco. All right.
Mhm.
This one is like about preparing in advance. I'm like one of these people that I can't stand not to be stocked up. And like I
Mhm.
won't run out of things because I'm not one of those overstockers, but I'm like, oh my goodness, we're just halfway through our big Costco thing of detergent. I'm gonna go get another one. So I've always got a backup. But I just think that making sure that the shelves are stocked. And by what I mean by that is like prepare. And I know,
Mhm.
Sherry, there's something specific that you want to say, but I was just thinking about a manager checklist, simplifying the
Mhm.
process as much as possible. I think these are the pieces that HR are so good at owning. And
Yes.
especially if you're doing the research with people, you can say, okay, here's your checklist. Make that part of the manager
Mhm.
guide for
Mhm.
onboarding. Have a pre-boarding plan. Don't just stock
Mhm.
your own shelves, stock the shelves of the individuals starting in the organization. So stock your shelves as an organization, stock your manager's shelves, stock your new hire shelves by
Mhm.
reaching out to them. And I know I talk about First 30's onboarding buddy, but I think it's also important for them to have a in-person
Yeah, real buddy.
onboarding buddy too.
Yeah. Yeah. This is where when I think about it, I think about it in terms of the intentionality behind onboarding
Yeah.
too. And it's about the being prepared and
Mm-hmm.
understand what does the person need to know? When do they need to know it? And how is the best way that I can get them this information? So this
Yeah.
goes for equipment and supplies, introducing them into team members, and also what information do I need to learn, when, why, and how, because it is the drinking from the fire hose. It is the avalanche, and you really don't need to know everything. This
Sure.
isn't a okay, it's off my list and now it's on to yours type of a
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
It helps make everybody's life easier when you do it
Absolutely.
thoughtfully and intentionally.
Right. So I'm going to the end here. Um,
Okay.
I know that we're kind of running out of time. I feel bad because there is one we missed, but I'm going to give you the heads up on what it was. So it was a picture of the Noah's Ark. And it's
Yeah.
like people wouldn't know how to get to, or the animals are people. The animals wouldn't know how to get to the Ark if they hadn't got the information in advance. So that was more in depth about what to do for pre boarding. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that before the next session on in which you can go back and look for the link there for fixing onboarding session that we're running next. I'm going to make sure that I send out an assessment, an onboarding assessment for you so that you can take that and then I can look at the results and then I'll know more about what to talk about. I know people love the
Good.
automation part. So I can definitely talk in more detail about setting up a really successful automation. So I will look at the results of that and then I'll help you with whatever I'm seeing in those results. So that's one thing. But I think if you were like leaving this today, two things that you could do like really, really quickly, and Sherry, you might have another thing, or three things maybe. One would be you could let your new hire start late and leave early. That actually makes such a big
Easy.
difference to
Yeah.
everyone. And that's
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, that's one thing I could do.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I think that you could learn more about the learning curve and
Hmm.
share that information with
Hmm.
your managers and think about ways to implement that for your new hires. And then coaching people and telling people what they do right. It's
Hmm.
free. Like these are all free
They're
things,
free.
except
Yep.
maybe the people don't always see starting late and leaving early is free. I get that. But
Yeah.
it's like it kind of you're going to get your money back. That's a good ROI
Right.
on that one for
Yeah.
sure. Of course, the fourth thing you could do is book some time with me, and I could show you
Mhm.
what the onboarding buddy will do for your organization and how easy and quick it is to set up. And it's really cost effective too, actually.
Mhm.
So you could do that, and I'll send you an email after this, and you can look and see if you want to spend 30 minutes and go over that as
Mhm.
well. But I hope that you're feeling like, okay, I've got like 3 things I can do tomorrow
Yeah.
that are going to make a meaningful difference. I think in more detail, and we can talk about this in the next session too, if you want, and you're welcome to reach out to me and tell me what you want to talk about and you can respond to the email that I'm about to send to and tell me is setting up an actual, not First 30's onboarding buddy, but a buddy program in your organization too.
Mhm.
So, Cher, is there anything else you thought would stood
I
out
think
as
those are
something?
great ones. Those are
Yeah,
really, really great ones. Yeah.
yeah,
I guess okay, my final one, which wouldn't cost any money, is following up, creating some sort of a follow-up with new hires so that you can understand what's working and what's not.
yeah, yeah. Because again, like it's just they might think of things you've never even thought. Oh my
Right.
goodness, I didn't realize that would
Yeah.
help so much.
Yeah.
So we always like to be on time during these sessions. I hope on the next slide, Shira, I'm not sure if I did. I put both of us on here.
You're so good.
Yeah, so there's our information. I did put it in the chat as well, but I want to thank you so much for coming, for your active participation. I hope you like the format of the
Fun.
presentation. It's kind of fun to run it that way. It
Mhm.
keeps us on our toes too. But Sherry,
Mhm.
thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Sherry runs a really busy company. So I was like, oh my gosh, I booked her like a month or 6 weeks ago for this to make sure
I've
that we could do
always
it
got
together.
time for Amy. She's the most
Aw.
generous. Like, honestly, you're just a gem. I love you.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. Now I'm blushing. I get to blush.
Yeah.
You got to blush at the beginning. I get to blush at the end. But thanks to everyone for joining. I'm sorry I didn't get to say hi to all of you because I was just trying to work on the chat or the actual presentation and not always look at the chat. But yeah, thanks so much for coming, and I hope to see you at the next one. It's going to be a more
Mhm.
in-depth and fun one too, I hope. So have a really great day, everybody. Nobody told me to get the transcript.
Oh, get the
Yeah.
transcript.
I got to get it right now before I go. So you're going to see all this awkwardness at the end. That's the problem with these things is like, how do you finish
Yeah.
a meeting? But thanks again, everybody, for joining. I've got the transcript now, and we've got the recording, which you will be getting next week. And have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.